The book of Psalm 139. Title of today's message is What God Knows About Me. I've been reading this chapter for a number of years and made a lot of notes in it. I don't think I've ever shared from it. But anyway, going to today. What God knows about me. Let's look at verse 1 together. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. Now that's the basic right there. That's the capsuling statement right there. He knows you. He has known you. He still knows you. Now let's see what he knows about it. What does God know about me? 1 through 6 tells us that. The first thing is, look at verse 2. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. Y'all didn't think he was looking this morning, did you? When you sat down, God saw it. When you rose up to sing, he saw who was standing, and if you were still sitting, not to say it was anything wrong if you were sitting, but he was aware of it. He saw it. Okay? Verse 2. Also, the second part, you understand my thought from afar. Now, he knows your thoughts, but more than that, he understands why you're thinking. And I don't want you to know all the time what I'm thinking, do you? Do you want me to know what you're thinking all the time? No, we don't want, But, thoughts precede actions. I've got a message on thoughts and controlling thoughts that I hope the Lord will let me share one day. I wanted to do it this morning, but I just felt like, nope, ain't time yet. This is today right here, Psalm 139. But God knows all about you. He knows your thoughts, and he understands why you're thinking. You ever sometimes thinking, why am I thinking this? Where did this come from? Well, you may not know why, but God does. He's a lot smarter than we are. Look at verse 3. What else does he know about us? You scrutinize my path and my lying down, and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. In other words, God is aware of all I do. God is aware of my lifestyle. People show up at work, they're one person. They go home and they're another person. They go to church, they're another person. Some people are the same no matter where you put them. But God knows the lifestyle no matter what you want to pretend that you are. God knows exactly who you are. Let's look at verse 4. Here's what else God knows about you and I. Even before there's a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all. He's aware of all that you say. He's aware of all that you're going to say. That's pretty sharp, isn't it? Sometimes I'm trying to figure out what I need to say, and I can't even do that. But the Lord's already got it. He's already so smart. He already knows what I'm going to say tomorrow at work or wherever I'm going to meet or whoever I'm going to be with. And he's aware of what I'm going to say. And I have to be careful. That's why I like writing emails to these professionals I have to deal with, because I want to be careful at what I say to make sure I say it right and to make sure something doesn't get and take out of context. I try to explain very well in what I write. And it may take me 20 minutes to write a one paragraph that's only 4 sentences long because I want to think it through. Now, I don't always do that. I don't always say things right. Sometimes I say stuff and it's in the flesh, Sometimes I say stuff I wish I could take back. But all of that, God understands why I do it. He understands why you say what you say, and he understands why you do what you do. Look at verse number 5. Here's what else. You have enclosed me behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. David, the writer here, says, God can completely control my life. God can completely control your life. You ever thought, well, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go and do this, or it may be like a job. I had this job figured out one time in my younger days, and I thought I'd get in there and I was going to make a lot of money. Everybody else I saw had that position. They made money. I thought I was a lot smarter than the rest of them, so I was going to surpass them, and I went into it. I went backwards, And so it just was God. He had put a hedge around me and said, oh, no, you're not. This is not for you. And David says, He has enclosed me behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. Now, I don't know if that was in wrath or in love and kindness, but God's able to do whatever He wants to do. And look what He says in verse 6. He says, knowing what God knows about me, knowing that He knows my thoughts, all that I can do, He knows my lifestyle, He knows what I'm going to say, He understands my thoughts. God can completely, all this, He says in verse 6, such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's too high. I cannot attain to it. Here's another thing about God. He not only knows all these things that's listed in verse 6, but in verse 7 through 12, He starts, there's a new paragraph here. You could say that first paragraph, you could use the word omniscient. He's all-knowing, omniscient. And then this next paragraph, verses 7 through 12, He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. Look what He says in verse 7. Where can I go from your Spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? Sometimes, especially after a rough day at work, I don't want to do nothing but just be left alone. I want to get by myself. And I had one of those rough days here a few weeks ago, week before last, I guess, and me and the wife went out and got something to eat. I don't think her day was a whole lot better, but anyway, we got finished and started heading back home. I said, I think I'm just going to go home, lean back in my chair, and look at the wall. You ever had one of them kind of days? I've had a lot of them lately. I've been really having to pray, Lord, help me, help me to respond right, help me not be short of people, give me wisdom on all these problems I got to help solve and keep things together, keep a lid on things, and just all that emotional stress will just drain me. I don't know about you. It pulls it out of me. But when I think I'm all alone, guess who's still there? God, and I want Him to show up. I want Him to be there. He's everywhere. Where can I go, David says, from your Spirit? Or can I flee from your presence? Can I get away from you? Look what he says in verse 8. If I ascend, if I go up to heaven, you are there. And verse 8 at the bottom basically says, if I dig a hole in the ground, you're there too. Verse 9, if I take wings of the dawn and I dwell in the remote parts of the sea, it didn't matter if I go up high, if I go down low, even if I get in a submarine or scuba gear and go on the bottom of the ocean where nobody else is at, God's right there. Even there your hand will lead me, verse 10, and your right hand will lay hold of me. Verse 11, if I say, surely the darkness will overwhelm me, and the light around me will be night. Verse 12, even the darkness is not dark to you. That's pretty good, isn't it? Darkness, then, for us, dark, we can't see things. But with God, there's no difference in daylight and dark. Him, He sees it all. Darkness and light are alike. So, just remember, God knows it all. He knows everything about you, and there's nowhere you can go that He's not watching. I've got maintenance employees, and there are other employees, and we've got students in the school system, and there's so many video cameras around, and I've got access to all those cameras. And I was just looking through a building one day, and I saw back during November, I'm going to tell on somebody, I'm not going to call a name, but there was one of my maintenance guys just sitting. I thought, my goodness, what's he doing? I thought, well, I'll just keep watching. I guess he'll go back to work here in a minute. He was on his phone, texting. And he sat there, and for 20 minutes, I watched him text, and he thought he was invisible to everybody else in the room where he was at. But I saw it all. Okay. and students and teachers. I get to look in cameras if I want to, inside, outside. I can see everything like at Mariana K-8 School, every hallway, into some of the rooms, the gymnasium, outside around the building, you know. I can even unlock and lock doors from my computer. If somebody needs to get in, don't have a key, they call me, I say, what room you want? I can click on that, you know, doors, not every door, but most major entrances, I can do that. Well, God sees it all. You know, He can see a lot more than I can see, you know. All the things that we think are in private, like I'll just ask, you know, throw this out there, where did you go last night? You know, I don't need to know. But were you trying to hide anything from anybody last week? Were you trying to have a secret conversation away from some crowd? And, you know, people sometimes at work, I'll see some of these workers, they'll move to one side and they start low talking. That's what I call it. They start low talking. You know, they're having a conversation they don't want others to hear. God hears it all. He sees it all. And let's look at what else. We can't hide from Him. I can't hide from Him. Now look at verse 13 through 16. What else about God? Not only does He know me, He created me. He knows me really well. Verse 13, you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. My mama carried me around for about 9 months, and while God was working on me, and then finally I came out and the most beautiful child she'd ever seen, and she was so happy. You know, but that was just a work of God. Verse 14, I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You ever feel like you don't mean anything? You're not important? Listen, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. If somebody ever starts putting you down, you think of this verse right here. Some of y'all need to underline this and highlight it. Copy it off and put it in your pocket, because some of y'all got self-images that are really low. And I don't know who you are, but some of you, you might be the loudest person in the crowd and the most talkative, but there are people like that are low self-image people. But listen, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. There's nothing wrong with you. Well, there might be something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you the way God's created you to be. Everybody say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Say that. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, do you believe that? Obviously, I do. My mama does. Hopefully. Oh, I got to be careful. The Bible also says pride goes before destruction, right? And a haughty spirit before a fall. But I'm just joking. But really, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, some people don't like themselves the way they are. I think of that singer that was one of my favorites growing up, Karen Carpenter. The Carpenters, we've only just begun. Did I sing that at y'all's wedding? My goodness, or at Steve Crutchfield's, one of y'all's wedding. Anyway, I sung that song, but Karen Carpenter and Richard Carpenter, Karen had anorexia. She was a beautiful lady, didn't have an ounce of fat on her, I didn't think. But heard she was anorexic. She was not pleased with the way she looked on the outside and was trying to lose weight. And I think the reports are that she died from starving herself to death, basically. She wasn't satisfied with herself. All she needed to have done is look in the Bible and realize she was fearfully and wonderfully made. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Look at the next part. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. God don't make no mistakes. He made you. You know, some people are short, some people are tall, some people are big frame, some people are small frame. You like the way I did that? But God's made you, okay? Verse 15, look what he says. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was made in secret and skillfully, not just thrown together, you were skillfully made You're important. God made you the way He wanted you to be. Now accept yourself the way God made you. Find your purpose, just like the seeds go in the ground and become flowers or become carrots or become whatever those seeds are. God's designed you to be what He wants you to be, and sometimes we go and not figure out, am I supposed to be a turnip green, or what am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be an orange or an apple? Or, be whatever God has called you to be. If you don't know the answer to that, I'm sorry, I can't give it to you, but I know who can. You just need to get with God. Look at verse 16. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance. God saw you in the womb. In your book were all written the days that were ordained for me. Now that's interesting right there. In your book were all written the days that were ordained for me. People ask me once in a while, when they going to start that Grand Ridge School? And soon. I really don't know the start date, but it's going to be soon. But I can tell you this. There are architectural plans that I've got copies of. And when I was toting, there's 2 sets of those architectural plans for that school. And it's pages. About 20 by 24s, sometimes they're bigger. Somewhere in there, I forgot the exact dimensions. But they're stacked up. The architectural drawings are first, then you have a plumbing section somewhere in there, a mechanical section, electrical section. Sometimes, if it's remodeling, they'll have a demolition section. But with these, and there'll be a demolition section for these because they're tearing down some more of those buildings. But it's all drawn out on paper before the work ever takes place. And when they rolled those, I got those things rolled up. They look like logs. They're about this big around, about this long, and it feels like I'm carrying a piece of wood. All right? There's 2 sets of them. Not only that, there's notebooks filled with what's called specifications. I've got 2 notebooks filled. I'm going to guess 700 or 800 pages of specifications. In other words, the architectural drawing may say, or show that this room is to be painted. And it'll sometimes say, it'll have a specification number. You look in that notebook, it'll tell you how you're supposed to prep the wall, what kind of paint you're supposed to use, if it's to be inspected or not. Like one example I was looking at a spec, the wall's got to be prepped, and then it's got to be inspected before the primer goes on. After the primer goes on, it's supposed to be inspected again. And then the first coat of paint goes on, then the second coat of paint, and it's got to be inspected again. 3 inspections. All that written down. All that to say, right here in Scripture, God had plans written down before you ever even born. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that not interesting? And he goes on to say, in verse number 17, how precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. Now, he starts out talking about God knows our thoughts. But God has thoughts too. How precious are your thoughts to me, O God. That tells me we are always on His mind. You're always on God's mind. He's thinking good things about you, not bad things. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How vast is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would outnumber the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. If I should count all God's thoughts about me, they would outnumber the sand. We're always on His mind. Kind of like I think about my wife all the time, and it would outnumber all the sand. Right? Now, God's better at it than me. I'm joking. I don't think about my wife as much as I should. I'm too busy. But God's not too busy. He's always got you on His mind. All that He does, He knows what everybody else is doing. He knows everything about you. We've seen that. But not only that, He's got you on His mind. He cares about you. He loves you. If you mess up, He'll forgive you. And He forgives real good. As far as the east is from the west. Let me get my directions wrong. As far as the east is from the west, He's removed our transgressions. That just keeps on going. And the Bible says He throws them into the depths of the sea, and then what? And remembers them no more. Now that's good right there. You can do me wrong 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks later, I'm still going to remember it. I'm still going to remember it. But if I say, Lord, 2 weeks ago, Lord, I messed up. I did this. Will you forgive me? And he forgives me of whatever it is I did. And I come back 2 weeks later and I say, Lord, I want you to be sure and forgive me now. What you talking about? It's like, what? He removes them, remembers them no more. Aren't you glad you can start afresh with God? Just start completely over, just like nothing has ever happened. God loves you. You're on His mind. He knows all that you're going through, all that you've been through. And then one final thing. I can be honest with God about my feelings. Look at verse 19. Now don't laugh when you read this. Oh, that you would slay the wicked. Oh, God. Isn't that interesting? Now, some people would look at that and say, hey, David wanted to slay the wicked. That means I can want to slay the wicked. Or I want God to slay the wicked, rather. Let me get it right. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, oh God. Now, I wish God would move some folks, you know, and like that pastor. He said a couple came up to him one Sunday and said, Preacher, we've been praying about leaving this church. He said, well, congratulations. I've been praying y'all to leave too. I thought that was funny. He's just being honest. Well, David was tired of some folks. I don't know who they were, but he would say, Lord, I wish you just kill them all. That's what the word slay means. Oh, God. And he speaks to them, and they're probably not even around. He's praying or thinking and meditating, depart from me, therefore, men of bloodshed. For they speak against you wickedly. This is why he's got this feeling. They speak against you, God, wickedly, and your enemies take your name in vain. Now, it's okay to be honest with God. It's okay if you tell God exactly how you feel. You know, I've done that. Somebody shared that point years ago, and it stuck with me. And I used to be thinking, man, I got this going on, but I can't tell God. He already knows it. He already knows it. Be honest with Him. Lord, I don't like this person, and I need help with it. I know it's wrong, but Lord, I hate their guts. Okay? Oh, Lord, yeah, you may even say, I want to kill this person. Well, that's what David was. I want you to kill him, you know. Lord, it's wrong. I got this. Keep reading. Keep reading. All right? Look what he says. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with the utmost hatred. He's being honest with God. Whatever you got going on, be honest with God. Carry it to Him. They have become my enemies. But then he winds it up with this right here. I can be honest with God. Now, let me throw this in here. Just because you can be honest with God, you better be careful if you coming mad at God and you blaming Him and wanting to poke a finger in His face. I tried that one time. I ain't done it no more. He ain't going to hear it. So be careful. Be honest with God, but don't start blaming God and put a finger in His face, because He ain't going to have nothing to do with it. And you don't want Him to lay His hand on you. Amen? Right? I can be honest with God. Let's keep going. I hate them with the utmost hatred. They have become my enemies. Then he says in verse 23, search me, O God, and know my heart. Now, Lord, you know I got all these feelings inside. You know this person hurt me, and I'm worried about this, or this is going on. I need help with this. Just be honest with Him. He says, try me and know my anxious thoughts. Anxious thoughts, that's things that you're just overwhelmed, concerned about. That's worry. That's just trying to figure it out, don't know what you're going to do. And he says, and see if there be in any hurtful way in me. There we go. He's basically saying, look, Lord, I got all these feelings, but no, Lord, I need you to look at me, and you need to tell me and help me fix me. And help me. And what do you say that last thing? And lead me in the everlasting way. Lead me in the everlasting way. I guess you could summarize this whole book in maybe a sentence that goes like this. God, you know all about me. You know all my disappointments. Now, Lord, here's what some of them are. But Lord, I need you to help me now. You know me. Now help me to get on track and lead me in the way you want me to go, the everlasting way. The everlasting way. I wrote this song not long ago. I got a date on it. September the 2nd, 2023. But I thought, you know what? That fits what I'm speaking on this morning. I think I'll close with this song. And we'll sing one more after I finish this one. But this song God gave me back in September, and I think He wants me to use it today. He knows it all. He knows it all. Nothing is hid, too big or too small. He sees it all. Come unto Him. Get peace within. Just reach out in prayer. He's ready to share His power in you. He knows it all. He knows it all. Nothing is hid, too big or too small. He sees it all. Come unto Him. Get peace within. Just reach out in prayer. He's ready to share His power in you. Let's stand together in prayer.